This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hi, I'm John Guandolo, President and founder of Understanding the Threat. Understanding the Threat is the only organization in the country giving local law enforcement, state officials, and citizens the ability to identify and map out jihadi networks in their community, and we're the only ones giving them tools to actually go after them legally, to crush them and rip them out of their community, something we believe needs to be done. This is your Glazov moment with John Guandolo. I'd like to thank the Glazov Gang for having me on board and encourage you all to support them. We are the first and only organization in the country that identified the Las Vegas attack on Sunday evening, October 2nd, as a jihadi operation. And since we first reported that in the early morning hours of Monday and wrote a more detailed article on Tuesday, we've gotten a lot of questions about how we came to the assessment. So what I'd like to do is, in very short form, walk through for all the viewers how we came to that assessment and the information that has come out in the last few days, and how we believe that simply reinforces what we already know. First of all, the timeline is that back in the spring, the Islamic State identified Las Vegas as a target, and then again reiterated it in this past September. Then we get just last week, the news release, the press release from the Islamic State that admonishes Muslims to stay away from places in America and elsewhere where large gatherings of non-Muslims are taking place. In the Islamic State's writings, they detail the kinds of targets that should be targeted by the jihadis, by their followers, by those who follow the Islamic State. And in fact, then what we see on Sunday night is an individual who opened fires on a crowd of 22,000 people in Las Vegas, Nevada at a concert. So you have the Islamic State stating what the target is, you have them repeating it, and then admonishing Muslims as recently as last week to stay away, and then Sunday you have an attack that fits the specific targets that the Islamic State has identified. Not only that, what we see from the shooter, Stephen Paddock, is a significant amount of reconnaissance on various targets, all matching the same character and type that ISIS, Islamic State, specifically names as the primary targets. He professionally does a pre-mission walkthrough. He sets this up, prepares his gear the way that a professional would. And for those of you not aware of my background, I am a combat veteran Marine officer, served in the infantry and reconnaissance field, served as a member of the FBI SWAT team in Washington, D.C., and was the team leader of the FBI's Washington Field Office SWAT team for approximately 3 years. So I'm familiar with these kind of operations. He showed a level of professionalism and training, and you have to ask the question, since his background reveals he has no military or law enforcement experience, where did he receive his training? Let that sink in, because you need to ask yourself. He received training somewhere. So moving on, during the actual attack, he showed discipline by maintaining his fire on the target, which the soft target were the people. Even when law enforcement showed up on the scene, he continued to fire on the soft target and the targets that he had identified prior to the operation. That's just simply a mark of somebody who has a little bit of discipline and has been trained and prepared. We know, obviously, he has a level of proficiency with weapons and explosives and handling ammunition. So where did he learn to do that? since he has no experience in military law enforcement, and so far nobody in his family thinks he even held a gun, if we're to believe any of them. Now, post-attack, what do we see? We see the Islamic State claim responsibility immediately for this attack. Same day, Monday, they, on a second occasion, claim responsibility, say that the shooter, Paddock, was given an Arabic name and said he was a martyr. He was one of theirs. Then early Tuesday morning, East Coast time, we see a third message from the Islamic State repeating that, and that he was doing it for the Islamic State. Today, Thursday, we see a fourth message from the Islamic State reaffirming that this is their operation. This is an incredible timeline of events, and when looked at, what you realize is there's only one viable assessment thus far with the facts on the table, and that is that this is a jihadi operation. In fact, the Islamic State has no record of claiming responsibility for an attack like this when the attacker does not either directly belong to them or somebody who's ideologically aligned with them. In fact, that has never happened. Now, there are some reports, for instance, that the attack in June in the Philippines was not an Islamic State attack, and they actually claimed it. In fact, analysts from around the world who have gone back and looked at that believe that the Filipino government truly failed in their analysis, calling that event a robbery, when in fact there's a significant amount of evidence pointing to the fact that that was an Islamic State operation. Apart from that, there is nothing people can point to where the Islamic State has claimed something that didn't belong to them. So the most viable option right now is that this was a jihadi operation. Now, it doesn't mean we don't pursue all possible options. As an investigator, you keep your options open, you let the facts come in, you make your judgment. But if you lay the facts that we know on the table, that's what we know, and that's where it points to. In fact, what was the first reaction by the U.S. government? That Paddock is psychologically ill, and this has no connection to terrorism. Well, this is the same thing we've been hearing from the government for the last 10 years. Major Nadal Hassan, before the FBI even got on Fort Hood, said it wasn't terrorism. He's crazy. The Fort Lauderdale shooter was crazy. Everybody's crazy. Nobody's a jihadi. Our government needs to understand the threat. We need to know the threat. We need to understand the Marxist movement, and we need to understand the jihadi movement. So thanks to the Glazov Gang for allowing me the time to do this. We encourage you to support the Glazov Gang. Subscribe to their YouTube channel. They are a great group of people, and they're doing great work. So thank you to them, and thank you to all of you. Remember, understanding the threat, we are the only ones in the nation doing what we're doing, speaking truth about real threats. We are taking the fight to the enemy and putting freedom back on the offensive where it belongs. Thank you, and God bless you.